She said that American soccer fans, most of them aren't smart. They don't know the game. They don't understand.
Gio.
That guy gazpacho.
Bournemouth can take a lame gorilla, okay?
Right, did you know that Arsenal? Guys.
These got me buzzing.
Up the topies. It's hard to up them anyway.
I'm not even going to comment on that.
Welcome back to another episode of Footy with the boys. Putting on the straps. We're ready for NFL football. We are ready for a new coach. Mike, we got some big things to run through. This weekend, we have the North London Derby. Arsenal, Tottenham. We have Everton versus Aston Villa. That may be a bloody massacre for Aston Villa. And of course, we have to run through first our U.S. men's national team getting a draw with New Zealand, but still positivity because finally, after a month, Mauricio Pochettino has been confirmed. We will tell you how that happened and our full reaction now that it is official. But Mike, let's start with New Zealand. And we start really with absolutely nothing of note. I mean, this game was just as bad as the Canada game, except New Zealand were just a worse team. The U.S. did not look great. Ricardo Pepi was being played as a winger. You could say Marlon Fossey had a pretty decent game, and other than that, not really sure if anybody else did much to stake a claim to anything. Christian Pulisic comes on and scores a goal as a sub. And then a Giazzi Zardes type goal bounced off the head of, or face, might be the better word, of the New Zealand player and into our own net for a 1-1 finish here. Well, Mike, how much do you take of this? Because, as I said before the game, Mauricio Pochettino officially announced, somewhat bittersweet, of this is horrible. This may be the worst run of form, and almost guaranteedly is the worst run of form since Kuva. But we already have that solution in place. We already have the new coach coming in. So what do you even make of this?
It sucked. Awful performance. Probably shouldn't weigh into it too much, give it too much. I mean, relevance, since it is an interim manager. It's a friendly. But nonetheless, I mean, I took my time out of the day to watch this game, as a lot of fans did. Players are coming into camp from their club season. Yeah, it's a friendly, but you should be out there ready to perform.
All right.
God damn it.
Ready to perform. And certainly these players were not ready to perform.
Apologies.
All right, Mike is back. Mike, you were saying they were not ready to perform, which is very true.
Yeah, just like the players, my internet took the day off. So that's what you get. Half-ass, no intensity once again. Disappointing. The line.
Oh my
Mikey.
goodness!
I'm cutting out. Apologies.
Shoddy.
Apologies. The lineup sucked. Definitely sucked. Made no sense. Had three strikers out there. Midfield was okay. I actually liked seeing Aiden Mortis start, even though he didn't have a fantastic match. And defense was good. Tim Ream needed to hold bench. Mark McKenzie played okay. Fossey was good on the right side. I think he could be a depth option at right back going forward. And I thought Christopher Lund was one of the better players in this international window. But man, it's miserable watching them right now. Like literally, there has been no fight since Copa America. I don't know how you have a tournament like that and you come out here and play like this against New Zealand. We just watched Mexico beat them 3-0. And we love talking that shit against Mexico, but we can't beat a team that they put away easily. Last thing I'll say about it is that goal was absolutely a fluke. Loops over Matt Turner. Really nothing you could do about it, but his facial expression says it all. He has a look of disbelief. He's looking at his defenders, and he knows that they didn't deserve to win the game because they didn't take their opportunity, and they let New Zealand hang in there. And, you don't win that way.
I mean, it was disgusting to see a team this much talent in a game that you're supposed to bounce back. And realistically, we were saying even if the U.S. bounce back and win 6-0, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't move the meter at all because we've seen it before where they look shit and then they come back and have a bounce back performance and then look shit again. They did switch it up a little bit. Instead of having a bounce back performance, they just look shit again. I mean, I guess you want to try and use excuses of that they're just waiting for a new manager. It doesn't really matter, but you're playing for your national team. There is no excuse. Have some fucking effort at the very minimum. You're being watched by your new manager. Do you think he's excited to see your sloppy touches, your horrible play, your draw versus New Zealand? I mean, so we said Mauricio Pochettino is coming in at a good time because it's near rock bottom. Ass is on the bottom right now. It is absolutely rock bottom right now. If you can't beat New Zealand, Mike, it's New Zealand. It's the same exact team as our U23 team in the Olympics basically played, other than like Chris Wood. Like, yeah, I mean, come on, boys. This is just ridiculous. But like, it was somewhat overshadowed. Oh, go ahead.
Put some respect on them. They are the Oceanic champs. We can't forget that. They did win an international tournament this summer. So that's more than we could say.
Listen, yeah, I guess I want to see some type of desire. Fortunately, though, we do have a coach coming in that is kind of his MO. Realistically, if you were to poise all the issues with the U.S. men's national team, they don't score. They don't press well. They don't have the energy, the intensity. They look complacent. And you were to fit that to a coach, the best person you could possibly come up with is Mauricio Pochettino, who has a just record of wild intensity. He has a record of pressing, and he has a record of scoring an insane amount of goals as he did with Chelsea last season. Mike, it is finally official. We'll get into the details of how it actually happened, how U.S. Soccer did it, but initial thoughts when they said 30 minutes, we have an announcement, and then they announced Mauricio Pochettino officially U.S. men's national team head coach.
Amazing. I couldn't see any of the press conference or the actual release, but I saw a tweet on my phone about 30 minutes after the announcement, and I couldn't believe it. I thought it was another bullshit, but I checked on it, and it was Fabrizio. It was a here we go, and that's what you love to see. Finally done, signed and sealed. There we land. I'm pumped. This is huge. Shit performance. Hope he wasn't watching. I hope he was watching, actually. I hope he was watching because he needs to sort this team out. This feels like a fresh restart. It feels like it's just in time to actually achieve something by 2026. I believe in it. It feels crazy to say. I've been very cautious as an Everton fan, as a United States fan. Getting my hopes up is not my natural instinct, but got to now. I'm 100% in on it. I'm 100% in on the manager. This is going to turn us around.
I mean, if you're not in for Mauricio Pochettino, it is hard to think of a manager that would turn you to hope. You may just, at this point, if you're not happy about Mauricio Pochettino, have to look in the mirror a bit and reflect. But let's get into a little bit of how it actually happened. Jeff Carlise of ESPN, the man who said it's coming, had the inside story from U.S. Soccer of how exactly this happened. How did the U.S. land Mauricio Pochettino? Well, it took a trip to Barcelona after some initial interest. Matt Crocker reached out. He went with JT Batson, had a 2-hour meeting scheduled, Mike, with Mauricio and his assistant Perez, and it went 5 hours. And they said that Mauricio Pochettino had plenty of knowledge on everything that was going on. They had a presentation for him about their player pool, about their vision for everything. And Mauricio Pochettino and Perez came back with a presentation of their own. And what I found very interesting is Jeff Carlise said in this presentation, they said stuff about the player pool that they like, and maybe more importantly, things they did not like about the player pool. So it's something that he is already noticing things and being critical about things that I feel like maybe that harsh critical value maybe wasn't there with our player pool before. I feel like everybody really got a pass and they're just, these are our guys and that's it. I'm okay with Pochettino coming in and making some waves. The reason it did take so long was Chelsea, of course, were in the transfer window. They had to determine how much they were going to pay. It turns out that Chelsea's paying a good amount of what they still owed Pochettino. But it is reported that U.S. Soccer is going to be paying Pochettino $6 million a year, Mike. So when they said price and money will not be a factor in this one, still a step down from Chelsea being $14 million. But goddamn, $6 million makes him what would be now of active managers the second highest paid manager in the world. By far, the U.S.'s highest paid manager. Greg Berhalter made 2.2 after his World Cup bonus previously. So almost triple the salary of what Greg Berhalter did. Doesn't seem enough. Only triple Greg Berhalter. We got him on a steal. But it was able to be made happen by some billionaires. God, I love American billionaires chipping in. Ken Griffin and another guy, I think something Goodwin, chipped in here along with our sponsors to pay this salary. So, that's part of America you gotta love. Just billionaires helping out. The Ken Griffin guy actually makes a bunch of investments in U.S. soccer. I guess he's making small side fields. So, U.S. soccer with the billionaires behind us. God damn it, we're on the way up, boys. But Pochettino comes in announced, and he's going to have a press conference this Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th. Not a good indication of a first.
Dude, that's bad.
Speaking of this, I think we're breaking this. I haven't heard anybody else talk about this, but I may be out on Poch, guys.
He walks
Friday
out.
the 13th.
He walks out in the hockey mask and a machete, and he's like, "I'm gonna cut this fucking team down."
We might need Jason Voorhees, dude.
We need some type of murder of the players here to get them actually playing. But
whoa, come on, man.
Murder them fitness wise, of course. In game.
Figuratively,
metaphorically. But yeah, huge move here, Mike. And the final thought here was they made 3 tiers of managers. Tier 3 of some MLS names, tier 2 of some decent names, and then tier 1, the people that they thought were out of reach, people that they're going to be stretching for. Mauricio Pochettino was in that first tier, along with people like reported Zidane, Thomas Tuchel, Graham Potter, even Gareth Southgate as well. And we land our people we did not think were going to be in there. Jurgen Klopp obviously also in there, and he immediately turned it down, showing exactly what that tier really was. But Mike, Pochettino comes in. We were rumored with all these huge names. The rumor was that we never interviewed Steve Cherundolo or Wilfred Nancy, although their agents reached out about the position. Was a show for U.S. Soccer, not just Pochettino being our manager and what that means for us, but U.S. Soccer in a whole being so ambitious and for honestly the first time in a while of taking things very serious with this and making what are good moves for the first time in a while.
It's massive. First off, it shows that we know ball on this podcast because we made our own groups and they were pretty similar. We had Steve Cherundolo, Wilfred Nancy in that lower group and dudes like Pochettino, Jurgen Klopp up in the Premier grouping. So we got it pretty much spot on.
Are we insiders?
But it shows they obviously have some negotiating power, that they're willing to go after a big fish, even if they think it's a little bit out of our reach. And I mean, attempting to have those conversations, bringing those people to the table is the biggest thing. We did it. It ended up working. They pulled out the big bag. No, I don't love billionaires like you might have insinuated we do, but I like when they buy me nice
I love
things.
them in this situation.
I like when they buy me nice coaches. That I make an exception for. $6 million is great. We told them. We said it's going to take a big bag. It did. But I think it'll be worth it. That's what it takes to land a manager of this caliber. That's part of it. I'm really interested to see if there's information on what Poch and his agent said about our player pool. If they brought out specific players or they just identified general weaknesses in that roster, that would be cool to hear.
Remember,
I'm sure we'll see it in his roster selection going forward.
Remember
this
when
press conference is going to be
Steve
something.
Cherundolo was talking in that press conference like he got the job already?
Yeah, that boy was.
He was trying to play something.
Acting like he was holding something back. He didn't even interview this whole time, and he was over here in the press conference like, Well, I don't want to comment on it, but listen, trying to make us fearful that he would be elected as our
As
new
of right
coach, but
now, I'm still the LA Galaxy coach.
yeah, Brett, he needs to be tried in trial for that. What he did for the emotional state of the U.S. fan group is absurd. The word choice there is just diabolical by Sharundalo. I do think my biggest takeaway from this, though, is U.S. Soccer went out ambitious. They said they were going to reach out to people who were under contract, people who weren't under contract, just the biggest names they could find. But they reached out. They found a guy that is taking half of what he was making at Chelsea, half of what he could really make probably with the Manchester United, looking for a coach soon, and other gigantic European teams as his clientele. So it shows that he wants to be here. He wants this. In his quote, he said it's not just about the soccer. He wants to grow and build something here. In that story by Jeff Carlise, he says he wants to be involved in the development, the growth of the game here, how people are learning soccer, the development of talent. So it just shows he's not just here for, hey, this is just an opportunity for coaching and I'm just going to be here. It seems like he's actually invested. I mean, you can see that even from in that interview, he talked about weaknesses and knew his stuff about the player pool, which, I mean, as much as we joke around, we were saying, yeah, he probably doesn't know jack shit about a Johnny Cardoso. He doesn't know jack shit about an Aiden Morris, like these random players that haven't broken through really that majorly, but sounds like he does know a good amount about the player pool. He's seemed very knowledgeable and shocked JT Batson and Matt Crocker. So I'm excited about him. He seems really bought in, and I think that's really what you need from a manager in order for them to do big things. So big one to watch. October camp, Panama, his first game, and then he goes to Mexico against El Tri. Keep an eye here. We'll keep you updated on all the things Pochettino and the U.S. men's national team. But Mike, it's a hell of a weekend in the Premier League as well for Pochettino's old team, Tottenham Hotspur. No more Harry Kane there. No more Pochettino, but all the rivalry there. Arsenal, though, will not have all their same players, as well as Odegaard is out, Rice is out, Marino is out, Calafiori is out. They're missing a lot here, Mike. But it's also Arsenal, and it's also Spurs. Do you still think Arsenal have enough where they should absolutely expect to get the job done here? Or do you think it's maybe a bit of a justifiable excuse to not get all 3 points out of here for Arsenal?
No, I don't think they're guaranteed to get a win here. I mean, it's at Tottenham. They're banged up. They just drew to Brighton. So there's a lot of things going against them here. Tottenham haven't been playing great to start the season. I mean, they shit on Everton, but everybody shit on Everton, so that's not that cool. They're healthy, which is a big plus for them, except for Dom Solanke, of course. I think a draw is a healthy pick. Nick would be screaming at me right now that Arsenal still has enough, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know. 1-1. That's my prediction.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be an interesting game. I hope that Arsenal can still have the talent, the players to play exactly how they want to, or else this game just kind of loses that hype of Arsenal's playing a different way or not able to play how they usually do play, which is a nice brand of football to watch. But I do think, man, that midfield is going to be tough, man.
Who do you think the starters are going to be? Thomas Partey,
Jorginho, and you throw Havertz back there at the cam? I mean, I just the depth in their midfield with this many people out. Do you see what's his name? Nyaweri, the young guy, the English midfielder?
Alexander Zinchenko, dude. It's his time to shine in midfield. I think it might be. And I don't think Nick would be mad at that. Nick's talked about playing him in the midfield before. We saw it this week in international play with Ukraine. It's not an ideal thing, but with the lack of midfielders that they currently have, that seems like an actual possibility.
I mean, I suppose, but I feel like there's some other options before you go to that. But man, that's a lot of people out right now, and Odegaard being out, it's something big for this game when you don't have Declan Rice and some other big players. but it's an even bigger thing of how long does that injury go on for Odegaard? Because they don't have, as we've said in the midfield, we're looking for options. And yeah, you have a Partey, you have a Jorginho that can kind of cover that Declan Rice defensive responsibilities. And no, they're not Declan Rice, but in terms of Odegaard, you don't really have that backup 10. And you look at Man City, they do have the depth where if De Bruyne goes out like last season, you have a Foden, you have a Bernardo Silva, you have all these players that can kind of step up. And I think that's maybe the difference of Arsenal to City is City has just a crazy squad depth, and Arsenal is still building that out a bit. And I don't know. I think if you fall behind too far because of injuries and because of these early games for Arsenal, a questionable red card against Declan Rice, Man City's going to run away with it. That fucking Holland has 7 goals. I mean,
it's crazy.
No,
that's exactly right. You can't let Man City get any breathing room. You have to smother them early.
Head start.
That's the only time they've been beaten is when Liverpool did it. They got so far ahead that Man City couldn't catch them at the end. If you let Man City hang around till January, I mean, it's too early in the season to say this, but it always happens. If you let them hang around till January, they'll catch you and they'll beat you because they're that much deeper.
Yeah, and if you're dropping points early and they have a head start by the end of the season, it's
done.
It's game over. It's game over, especially with Haaland in this form. I mean, good God, man. It's what he's doing is not of this world. And also, what is not of this world, Mike, is the Everton Toffees on the absolute opposite side of the spectrum. Dog shit. It has been wild watching how poorly Everton can play. They go up against Aston Villa this weekend, who is a top team this season.
Yeah,
I mean, this is gonna be a rough one. I think we already know that, but how many of the new signings do you expect now can be integrated after an international break, after the games we've already had, in the hot seat that is certainly heating up for Sean Dyche? If he does not start getting results within this game or Leicester, more likely that Leicester game is going to have to be a result. I mean, when does he start using those new signings? Because they seem like good choices and they just aren't being used.
Dude, we have to use them all. This is a tough game to come back to after a break, after a loss like
it's
that.
It's a horrible game. It's going to ruin my
most
weekend.
recent games that Bournemouth won. Yeah, I think you have to start most of them. Branthwaite's still not available to go. I think Jake O'Brien should be starting at center back with Tarkowski.
Absolutely.
I think the midfield 3 should be all new players: Oro Mangala, Irabunam, and then Ndiaye in front of him at the 10. I think that's an option we have to try. None of our current midfield options, Decore, Garner, anybody, has been great to start the season. I think Lindstrom should be on the right wing, Dwight McNeil on the left, and I think Broha, if he's ready to go, needs to start at striker. You spend that kind of money on a loan move. That's a big transfer. I think he's definitely has the potential to be better than Beto and Dom. It's not saying much. He could score us 10 goals this season. That'd be great.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing is we've seen the squad and it looks horrible with the players from last season because we knew we needed some investment and we got that investment and we just weren't using the investment really at all. It's time to start using that. I mean, Mangala got in for Belgium's national team at the weekend, so he has the fitness. He should be able to play. I would imagine he can slot right in, and I just don't think that Sean Dyche's system is that complex, that it's working that well, that he says, I don't want to tinker with it. I don't want to throw things in there in case it doesn't work. I hope you tinker with it and it doesn't work because what you are doing isn't working. So if it fucks up and does something else, probably for the betterment of Everton. I'm like, realistically though, no matter what we do, no matter the people we put in, we're probably not going to win this game. I think it's looking forward to Leicester if we're being completely honest with ourselves and what we've been seeing this year. But does a good performance in this one, after what should have been a win versus Bournemouth, although a wild collapse at the end, does a good performance but a loss in this one at least give you some hope that we're staying up, or is it, man, you need results and points now? Because we'd be still stuck on 0.
Need a result here. It'd be massive. Be a massive performance to get a result, but need to see it. Need to see a point on the board, and need to see a defensive improvement, because that's how we stay up this year. It can't be as leaky as it's been. I do have a sneaky feeling that Amadou is going to get one against us. He's in hot goal scoring form, and that would just be another slap in the face for a hell of a start to the season.
Yeah, that'd be a tough pill to swallow. Onana sinking us with a goal there, but I do think you got to shoot for a draw. You got to be solidly defensive in this. You got to just sit back, see if you can get something. Let the new signings play. They're significant upgrades on what we have.
Got to try him.
And just, you got to get a point. Get a single point on the board. Get off to 0. Just get some type of momentum going into a Leicester game that is going to be a must-win, no matter the result here. You need to win those games against the teams that are in a relegation scrap with you. We will see what happens here. We'll have our reactions here. So if you see this one going south, make sure to come back to the channel. I'm sure you'll see a few words shared by me and Mike on this one. Going to the rest of the Premier League for the rundown. We start with Manchester United and Erik ten Hag on the hot seat, but he gets what should be a bit of an easy one against Southampton. They have not looked great this season. Erik ten Hag needs a good performance. Will he get it? Probably not. That's just not what they do. They don't ever look convincing, this Manchester United squad. Brighton going up against Ipswich. Ed Sheeran may have a tough time watching this one, as Brighton and Fabian Hertzler, the German-American manager, youngest in the Premier League, are looking amazing. We move to Liverpool versus Nottingham Forest. I mean, Nottingham Forest have had a pretty damn good start to the season, playing against some of the cupcakes. No cupcake here. This might be a bit of a waking up call, or a wake. I don't even know what I'm trying to say.
Wake up call.
Wake up call. There we go. That's what we're looking for. It's a late night. Wake up call for Nottingham Forest on what their season might really be looking like. We move to Man City versus Brentford. The Bees, I'm guessing that they might not be buzzing after this one. Man City looked like a machine. Haaland, we'll see if he gets another hat trick and get to double-digit goals within 5 games here. That would be ludicrous of him. Moving to London, we have Fulham versus West Ham, an all London bout here. Jedi Robinson will be fully rested up for this one. West Ham, a lot of talent. I still think West Ham can do a lot of things this season. Leicester City going up against Crystal Palace. This will be an interesting one here to see where Leicester really is and where Crystal Palace is, because Crystal Palace have had quite a bad start to the season. We move to the Cherries of Bournemouth. Playing against Chelsea, Enzo Maresca certainly looking for another good result for his Chelsea team to build some momentum with his 50,000 people. Will we see Jadon Sancho in this one? Who knows? We got a whole lot of people to look out for that one. And then finally, Wolves versus Newcastle. For some reason, these two teams seem to just fit in a matchup against each other. I could see this one being a draw, Mike. But what games catch your eye? What storylines catch your eye for the rest of the Prem this week?
I think Fulham West Ham's a solid matchup. Wolves Newcastle and Bournemouth Chelsea. It'll be interesting to see what Chelsea does here. I think this is a sneaky test. They look fine so far, but Bournemouth's a good team who can score goals. So we'll see what that Chelsea defense looks like.
Yeah, I think in terms of a hate watch, not really a hate watch. I don't understand really, bro. A non-understanding of why Manchester United. The league is a better place, but Manchester United are good. I'm wearing a Man U kit for Ji-Sung Park over here. I just don't understand how Erik ten Hag is still the manager. How? I think this one is gonna go bad. But somehow Manchester United is going to get a 90th minute winner, although they don't have Scott McTominay. So who knows who scores that now? But I also think Chelsea, Bournemouth, like you said, it's a good litmus test for Enzo Maresca and Chelsea to see who are they really. You can shit on Wolves. Nothing else has been wildly convincing. So I think this is a good test for them against a team that they should, on expectations, on paper, beat. Bournemouth on a pretty decent side. So we'll see what happens this weekend. A lot of games to kind of keep your eye on. We moved, though, to our lock of the week competition where the boys were absolutely on fire last week in week 3. Mike got the score and the result right. He's last from last season, and he's first in this season. Biggest thing here, Nick also getting a point, and then Leicester with Palmer. That's an interesting speller of Leicester City there.
It is.
And then we got me going with Liverpool over Manchester United. And I also get the point there, but I am still in last. Mike, this week, you go with Liverpool 3-1 over Forest. Not a bad
Same
shout.
scoreline.
In fact, an absurd shout that's even possible. But Forest, not at all close to the bottom 3. Nick went with his boys, the Arsenal Gunners, 2-1 over Tottenham Hotspur and Ange Postecoglou. And I have gone with Brighton, my American manager, Fabian Hertzler, over the town, as Palmer has put in. Ipswich Town here, 3-0 there. Ed Sheeran, he is not in love with the shape of that scoreline, but he is in love with the shape of you. We'll see what happens there. I hope I can maybe get back into this competition. But Mike, final thoughts before a big weekend for Arsenal. Final shout before Everton's big weekend versus Aston Villa. And final thoughts on Mauricio Pochettino.
Pochettino, get in, lad. Come on.
Get in,
It's
lad.
so exciting. Get in. Everton, whew. Show me something, please. I want to see the new guys play. I'm excited for Prem to be back. Shout out Nick. Shout out the Gunners. Sorry for your losses, but good luck this weekend. Good luck to Barcelona. Good luck, Man United, because they need it most.
Good luck. Good luck to the Gunners. Up the Gunners, up the Toffees, and up the Pochettino. He's magic. You know, Mauricio Pochettino. Until next time. Peace.